It's a new episode of the You're Wrong podcast with a GenXer and a Millennial. We talk about culture back then, culture right now. And we don't really, I would say we mostly agree, but we don't agree to disagree, really, do we?
Disagreeing a lot
mostly
lately.
we just keep going deeper into information that nobody else cares about but us. That's really what's going on, yeah.
So, yeah.
So what do you have, what are we doing today?
Well, who are you?
Oh, right. My name's Elizabeth. I'm the Millennial.
I'm Nicole, and I'm a GenXer.
Okay, so what is going on today? You can tell I'm like completely discombobulated.
Yes, same.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine.
That.
That's true.
Elizabeth.
Nicole.
Did you go to college?
I did. You know this about me.
Yes, you're a college graduate.
I am.
When you were growing up,
yeah.
Like when you were in high school, like were people saying you needed to go to college, or did you just like feel like you needed to go?
So in high school, I was in a magnet program.
Oh, okay.
So it was like assumed that we would just all go to college.
So you were already going to college before you even went to college, kind of.
Yeah. And then like I knew.
Why was that? Like, why?
Well, I knew that. Okay. Like, do you want the short answer?
Yes.
Okay. Why did I do a magnet program?
Yeah.
Because it was the best school it was the neighborhood school I was slotted for, which was a bad school.
But they had a magnet.
But the magnet was good. So I did that.
You did the magnet instead of the regular.
Exactly. And it ended up being a really great decision, obviously. And
Really? Obviously?
Yeah, because I graduated from college super early and I saved a ton of money. So yes, it was a very good decision.
Do you think it's a good idea to graduate early? I'm concerned about that now.
Why?
Because, well, that's not even what this is about. But
no, that's why.
I mean, because like, why? What's the point? I mean,
of graduating
other than
early.
saving money.
Yeah, I think if you're gonna be between like racking in another like 10, 20, 30, $40,000 of debt, or graduating early and starting to make money, then I feel like it's a no-brainer. I think going back, I had the option to stay for an extra semester or an extra year. But I had gotten a job offer already.
Okay.
So I was like, do I stay? Do I go? I chose to go. Like I chose to leave college. I graduate. Looking back, like maybe I would have stayed.
Yeah, because like, what difference does it make if you're like 22 versus 24 in your first job?
That might be true. Yeah, but I mean, I think like I'll say at least now for me, the way that my career has gone, I don't regret it, because like every job really well, not every job. the ones we leave off the resume don't, but the ones that, even including that one that I did end up taking to graduate early, did help me get to where I am now. Okay. So I don't regret it.
All right. Well, I wanted to just talk a little bit about like whether or not college is still worth it. I have on my alma mater t-shirt. I went to VCU.
I didn't know we were doing that.
Well, you didn't have to.
I almost
actually did not do this on purpose.
I almost grabbed my Florida State shirt just because.
Really?
And then I put it back.
That's fine. No, I mean, like, I have a teenager, as you know.
I've heard, yes.
Yes, that thing.
I've met him. He's nice.
Ooh. Yeah, he's different now. But so there's a lot of talk about college, and like he has all these honors classes and stuff. And the whole idea is to get ready for college. But it's like you also hear all this talk about like, is it really still worth it? And I've been going back and forth. I mean, it's really hard for me to get out of my mind that it's not worth it.
Okay.
Because even though people keep saying, well, everybody's not, cut out for college. And I'm like, okay, well, everybody wants to have a roof over their head and eat, don't they? So, that's true. What's your alternative?
Do you need college, I guess, to have those things? That's the question.
Well, that's what I set out to answer. With a little bit of research. I didn't do a ton of research because the research that I did, I'm still not convinced you don't need to go to college. Okay. So that's what the Gen X file is about today. Is college still worth it?
That's interesting. Let's get into it.
Let's find out.
Might actually be one where we disagree.
All right.
So I'm interested.
Finally. So here's the thing. I'm going to preface this by saying I don't know if college is for everyone.
No, I know it's not.
Okay.
I know it's
but
not.
What I'm also not convinced of, though, is that there is a better sure bet for lifelong earning capacity and stability in the job market than having a college degree. That one has not been proven.
You know what my problem with that is?
What?
And I'm sure we'll get into it, but I feel like it's too broad in general for me. I feel like there's definitely more nuance to it than that.
Okay.
Because I'll let you go ahead first.
Well, I mean, you are a millennial,
I
and
am.
there are a lot of people like you these days.
Well, I like to think that I'm 1 in a million, but
I know
thank
you do. According to Gallup, the percentage of U.S. adults from 18 to 29, which is your group,
Yeah.
Who view college education as very important, has dropped significantly over the last
I could see
several
that.
years. So it went from like 74% of Americans in 2013 in that age group saying that college was very important to just 41% in 2019 saying that college was very important. People cited, the issue of increasingly rising tuition cost as being prohibitive to them, feeling like it was very important. And then also like more jobs not requiring you to have a degree.
Right.
And so, it all kind of boiled down to people feeling like college really wasn't that important anymore. Now, the issue that I have with this is that 18 to 29-year-olds saying that college is not that important doesn't make me feel that good.
Why?
Because you're not 55 talking about the last 30 years of your life. Now, if a 55-year-old were to tell me, you know what? I did fine. College really wasn't that big of a deal. I was fine without it. Then that might help me believe
this
it
more indicative, though, of like a culture shift that's happening? Because if we feel this way, at some point we will be the 50-year-olds in the workplace. That's just how time works. So then, like, if we don't feel like it's important.
You don't feel like it's important now.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
All right.
But you haven't lived the life of not having a degree.
I'll concede that.
So and just purely on paper, earning wise, college graduates do earn more than non-graduates over their lifetime.
Okay.
They on average earn 1.2 million more over their lifetime still now than people who do not have a college degree. Now,
on average?
On average.
Okay.
On average.
So then you're putting in like rocket scientists, nuclear physicists,
engineers,
with
all
like
the way,
social workers,
all the way down to social workers and
not
teachers.
That I don't have not that like I'm shitting on them, but we just know they don't get paid that much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that more on that later.
Okay.
But that's a very important distinction.
Yeah.
About who's getting paid.
Right. And I think that's where I say, like, this is where my nuance comes in. Does college matter? I think it matters what you go to college for.
I'm all for nuance. Okay. This is not a broad stroke.
No, it can't be.
And so employment-wise, college graduates are less likely to be unemployed.
Okay.
Because, well, we'll get into it a little bit later. I'm just laying out the basic facts about why
Give me the landscape.
The college degree is still important. Do you know that college graduates are more likely to have health insurance over their lifetime
that makes
than
sense.
Non-college
I would
graduates?
say that makes sense.
Yeah.
Just by the type of work you're doing, more than likely, on average.
Yeah. So, those three factors, and we haven't even got into the social implications of attending college, still kind of make me feel like it's important. But let's talk a little bit about why people are saying it's not worth it, right? Mm-hmm. And so the argument is often cost, which I'm all about. Like, I agree. College costs have gotten out of control. College costs over the past 20 years, can you guess how much it's increased on average?
Okay. You don't know this, or you do know this about me.
You used to work for some kind of higher education thing or something,
I did.
Right? Yeah.
And at the time that I worked there, college tuition was the highest, increasing over health insurance and like credit card and mortgage debt.
Really?
Yes. So I have to say, it's definitely, Is it like 200%?
100%.
Okay, I was gonna say, because I was trying to think now. I knew what it was like 10 years ago, but I couldn't remember right now.
So tuition fees at private national universities have jumped about 132%.
In how many years?
20.
In 20 years?
Yeah.
So that would have been in 2003. Compared to 2003. Got it. Okay.
Out-of-state tuition and fees at public national universities has gone up 127%.
So that means that if at the first one you said,
private.
If tuition used to be $20,000,
it's 40.
It's now 40.
Yeah.
It's doubled.
Right. In-state tuition and fees at public national universities soared about 158%.
Jeez. So a double and a half.
Right.
Yeah.
So in-state tuition, which is why you have things like the college savings plan, which locks in tuition at a certain year. And so that if you start paying, we did it for my son, and I forgot when we did, I think he was like 7 or something like that.
I have one.
Right. So,
or I had one.
Whatever the tuition was at that time, that's how much his tuition would be.
Correct.
And so I can see why the in-state colleges have increased their tuition, because it's a way to get around it. But if you don't do it, then you'll be paying 158% more.
Yeah. It also depends, like, when we're talking about like state versus out of state, in-state, public, private, it really matters where you are and where you decide to go to school, which I think is like another, I'm sure you'll get into this maybe, is a big factor here, because like in a place like Florida, we actually have statute that says that tuition can only go up by so much.
That's happening in other states as well, California as well.
Which is good.
Yeah.
And we've had that since, I think, like the early 90s.
Oh, that's really good.
If not older than that.
Okay.
So that means, you're seeing here at least the more prestigious schools, which would for Florida be Florida State, UF, USF now, and UCF. Although I don't know about those.
Yeah,
they can only go up by 11%, and the rest can only go up by 7%.
Okay.
So it's actually like it is capped in certain states, and then in certain states they have like no rules, and so they can it's just madness.
Exactly.
And then the private schools, they can do whatever they want.
They can do whatever they want. So the cost is valid. Okay, on the surface. I'm saying no. The argument against going to college.
I was like, let me tell you what.
People saying cost is prohibitive, which it is, but
I can't say that my like gen ed classes were worth $40,000 a year.
Well, you had to do it to get to what the other stuff was, but
yeah, but
I mean, but it is a valid argument only if you're going to school for something that doesn't pay you well.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes,
So that's cost is that argument. The other argument, which to me is like super weak, is that why am I paying to go to college to be indoctrinated?
Oh.
Have you heard this one?
Okay.
Have you heard this one?
I didn't think we were going there.
That's a big one now.
I'm trying to think like who would say that.
Take a guess.
Yeah, but here's like
And to clarify what I mean is that you go to college and God forbid you're faced with some other viewpoints.
To be fair, not every college is like that open to other viewpoints. Not at all.
Okay. That's why that argument is terrible.
Right.
Because like you can go places where they're like, no, we're not talking about none of that.
Right.
We're going to talk about Jesus Christo. And that's it.
Yeah. Like,
but God forbid you go to a college where there are various viewpoints.
I also think
to discuss.
Yeah, I can hear the argument. I think it's a dumb one, but I can hear it. And my response to that person would be like, if you are so worried about being indoctrinated, then perhaps you
don't need to go to college.
I was going to say, then you don't actually believe what you think you believe that strongly.
Right.
Because I've been in classrooms where I've had professors who agreed with me and I've had professors who disagreed with me. I actually got into a fight with a professor about something once in class. And like,
that was it.
Exactly. Like if you're that worried about like, oh, I'm going to be indoctrinated, then babe, like, I don't know, work on yourself.
Soft brain.
Like, exactly. Like, think about, you should be a little bit more staunch in your beliefs, I think, if you think one professor is going to change your whole mind.
And I mean, how about hearing another viewpoint? I'm not saying you have to believe it, But there is value in understanding where people are coming from. I mean, there's lots of like, you know, it kind of goes hand in hand with the whole manosphere community where it's like, you know, why are you going to college to be indoctrinated? Especially frowned upon for women because you're getting too much learning now and you're not going to be a suitable wife.
You're in a weird part of the internet. I know what you're saying is right.
You act like this doesn't exist.
I know it does, but again, it's just like this feels so like just dumb to me because again, like if you don't, no one can indoctrinate you if you don't want to be indoctrinated.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Indoctrination,
if you're not open.
But also, why do women need to go to college if the best thing for a woman is to be married?
Okay, sure.
But the flip side of that is more people who go to college get married.
Correct.
We haven't gotten to that part yet. But so I wanted to kind of go back to the indoctrination. Again, the arguments that I was looking for all the arguments about why college is not worth it. Cost is really the main thing. Mm-hmm. The other one is indoctrination. And what was kind of weird about that to me was, you know, I had a professor. I took a political science class. I forget what year I was in, probably a junior. My professor was Doug Wilder. He was the first black governor of Virginia. And the class was about, I forget, I don't even remember. It was just poli-sci 101. But somehow we got into the discussion of, you know, I'm in Virginia. We got into the discussion of the Confederacy. And there was more than one person in my class whose family was either daughter of the Confederacy or something along those lines.
Yeah.
And on the surface, it was very uncomfortable to have the discussions, but I walked away with like a better understanding of it all. Did not agree.
Sure.
Still felt slightly offended, but like the discussion took place of why this group of people are proud of this heritage. And this happened in a college class. So I don't feel like that's really what's happening is indoctrination. You're just being presented with different viewpoints.
Yeah.
And so,
well, and that's why I say like if you whatever side of anything you're on cannot be faced with other viewpoints and
keep your own beliefs.
Either you're going to change your mind or you're not. But the thing is like if you change your mind, wouldn't you want to be open to changing your mind?
Yeah.
And if you're not, then like you know that you actually agree with what you thought to begin with.
Which was fine.
So like you're saying is that you're not that actual strong. You're very concerned to me that you're going to change your mind.
They're scared.
And I'm sorry, but like that's
a
weak.
dumb argument.
That's weak.
That's a weak argument to not go to college for
weak.
That reason.
It's weak all around. Weak brain, weak will.
Like, what are you saying? You can't go a lot of places if that's how you believe.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's really dumb.
So that was one. And then the other one, this other one really to me is a little bit more valid, and that is that employers are making it easier for you to get a degree without
get a job
without a degree. So there's because of the labor shortage, lots of companies have let go of the requirement for a college degree. Now, that doesn't mean you don't have to have some kind of training.
Right.
Okay, so IBM and Dell both have dropped college degrees for certain positions. Okay. They do offer an apprenticeship for certain positions. They're not high management, but they're probably in the mid-range of technical positions. Bank of America has a pipeline program mainly focused on like lower income communities, don't have to have a college degree. And then Google, a lot of their entry-level positions, you don't have to have a college degree.
Right.
Now, I actually think that's a valid position of maybe why it's not worth it. The only problem I have with that is that what if you lose that job?
Well, I guess in theory, if you lose that job, then you have like, okay, let's say you work at Google.
Yeah.
As like a level 1 coder.
Yeah.
Okay, you worked at Google.
Yeah, but then were you going to go Apple? If they're like, yes, hey, these skills are very nice, but you don't have a college degree.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. I think and I think the reason this is happening in tech a lot is because tech is moving so quickly.
Very quickly.
And I think this is another argument that you haven't hit on about not going to college, which is that college is slow.
It is.
So when tech particularly is moving so quickly, And then, your textbooks, your lectures, your professors, they're not, most of the time your professor's not in the industry anymore.
Not aggressively.
Right.
Yeah.
And so they're not keeping up with what's going on. So in theory, you can learn better certain skills being in the job market. And I would argue probably for everything you will learn better by actually
doing it.
Yeah. But in tech specifically, that's the argument. And I can kind of see it. I actually have a friend who's in an MBA program right now, and he was saying that they're actually, he's coding for data. They're actually behind whatever, like everyone's coding for like on SQL now, and they're like using whatever was like 3 generations ago.
Right.
And I'm like, and he's like, but that's just because that's what they know,
Yeah, I totally can see that. I mean, I think even for someone in tech, unless you just really, really just aren't thriving in a traditionally educational system, going straight in, getting some training, and jumping in is fine. But you have to understand that you may not be able to jump around if you need to, because that's fair. You know what I mean? To me, it's still valuable to have the thing that you can fall back on. And again, like, I don't think everybody is meant to go to college, but you have to recognize if you don't go, you may be able to work this one job, but moving around may be harder for you.
Okay, I can see that. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the salaries. So right now, again, maybe in 30 years we'll see a difference, but right now, the people with degrees make more money over their
average.
Okay. Again, on average. So like
I'm dying to get there. I'm dying.
U.S. News World and Report 2023 median salaries without a college degree.
Okay.
The top 5. Medical records tech.
Yeah. Okay.
They make $46,000 a year.
Okay.
Wind turbine tech. They make $56,000 a year. Firefighter on average, I thought they would make more. It's only 60.
Oh, because across the country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
LPN 48,000 and an electrician 60. Again,
LPN is what? Licensed plumber?
No, it's a nurse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, LPN, licensed something nurse. Electrician 60. Again, there's electricians who make 6 figures. There's electricians who make less. So these are the median. Best jobs with a degree, they are a lot more. They make a lot more money. Software developer. Got to have a bachelor's degree for most cases, $120,000. Nurse practitioner, $120,000. That's a postgraduate degree. Physician's assistant, again, postgraduate, $121,000. Info systems, that's an IT tech, $120,000. Physical therapist, $95,000. So again, the jobs that are making the most, that's probably what you want your major to be in. That negates the cost argument to me, because your investment, you're getting a return on your investment if you work in these fields. Generally. So again, the salaries aren't there yet, but that's not to say that it won't change. I want to get into a little bit of the social implications. Do you think it matters?
Well, are we going to go back to the degree you choose, or was that
That's coming.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's really the whole point.
Got it.
Yeah.
So do I think it matters if you go to college? See, I personally...
From a social standpoint.
Generally, unfortunately, I would say yes. I do think people... I don't agree with this, but I do think people... Because I don't. I personally don't.
What do you mean you don't agree, but you do think?
I don't care if someone went to college or not.
You don't?
I do not think that says anything really about you.
Interesting.
It just means you did something else. Like, if your choice, look, if you went to college and you got like a BS degree and the whole time you were high, like getting high and going to parties and like living off your parents.
Okay.
And then you got like some job, you have no ambition, you don't care. Okay. Versus someone who like went and got a trade and like did all this stuff. Obviously, these are 2 extreme cases.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, am I going to judge the one for I'm going to be like, well, he's cool. He's better because he has a degree.
No, the one who's doing well for himself is better.
Right. And that has to do more about like him as a person, not that he got a degree. This is how I think.
Okay.
But I do think generally in society, if people find out you don't have a degree, then they do look at you differently.
I think it's changing.
You think?
I think it's changing. But I agree with you. I wasn't so much thinking about how I judge people. I was more thinking about, do you feel like it betters your chance of things like community and mates and involvement? And according to studies, it does. Now, that's not to say you can't do these things without a college degree. I mean, there's plenty of people who are doing just fine being involved in their community and meeting people without college degrees.
I think that has more to do, honestly, probably with like family and values. I would say people who probably go to college, whether like at some point, if you have like a very strong like value, if you're a family with like those kinds of values,
like you do this,
someone will go to college. Like maybe not you, but your kids going. Or somebody's going to go to college eventually. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think those people do things like going to church and then, you know, and they're being in volunteers and like joining community organizations. And that's that. If you have those values, then you do those things.
Right.
And then eventually, since all of your kids went to college,
then
they all go to
meet people.
And they meet people in college, and then they're still doing all the things that you did as a family.
Yeah.
And then their kids go to college, and then now you have like essentially created this. But community. I don't think that that's like I said, I think that has more to do with family values, because I think, like, for example, both my parents, like, their parents did not go to college. Yes, my dad did not go to college.
Mine either.
But their families, like, you know, they were stress education to some degree. Definitely more with us. But
do you think it was more of they didn't want to, or it wasn't an option?
But that's exactly my point. Like, it wasn't an option, but they stressed the value of education and hard work on their kids. Right. And then eventually one of the two did go to college. Right. And then they had kids that both of us went to college. Right. And so that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not like college begets that. It starts with something else.
But then, you know, but it's the reverse too, in that if you know that that's the kind of values that push people to college, then you have a pool of people that have those values.
Well, and this could be a good argument on the same wavelength as me as to why probably a lot of people don't want to go to college right now.
Because they don't have no values.
Because they had it, and like, honestly, I feel like it's the same people that don't want to go to college that, like, look, if you're having the conversation, do I or do I not?
You probably don't need to go.
You have the privilege of making that choice.
That's the point.
And that means that your family did well enough to get you to a point where you can have this conversation.
And it drives me insane.
And if you're going to do that, then by all means, go ahead. Like,
it drives me insane.
Maybe my kids will have it so easy that they'll be like, fuck it, I don't need to go to college. And then I'm going to be like, that's fine, but you better have a plan. I need to see your. I need to see your business plan.
You're literally describing my life, not necessarily.
I need to see your whole plan.
Not necessarily.
You ain't living in this house like that.
What's plan B? You got to have a plan B.
Look, if my son was like, if I had a son and he was like, Mom, I want to be an electrician. Okay.
Where you going? What's the thing?
What
What's
is
the plan?
our plan? And I will help you. Right. But what is the plan?
But you still aren't going to earn more than a software developer over the lifetime.
But if he's like happier, maybe he wants to own his own business. I don't know.
And that's the point. We'll get to it. And I don't have a whole lot more. But like, in general, socially, people who go to college get married more often, which is a reverse.
But goes back to my comment.
I know, but guess what? It's a reverse of how it used to be. It's changed. Now people, according to the study, approximately 65% of adults who had attained a bachelor's degree or higher are married, compared to 53% of people who are less educated. It used to be reversed. It used to be that mostly people who didn't go to college got married. Somewhere along the lines,
they probably had to.
They had to get married.
They had to get married.
Right.
Because they had
of the money.
Because the money. And maybe the college people were like, I don't care.
They were like, I don't have
need
to do it.
Whatever.
Right.
But now that's what I'm saying. I think it's what you're seeing is like a value shift.
It is.
And the value, like, that is kind of legacy. You see that through a family college, for a while until
married,
it changes.
Having a child is a very like legacy way of living. And I understand that.
You're either in that or you're not.
Or you're not. And most people who are like, I don't need to go to college might also be like, I ain't getting married and I have no kids. Which you can't, because you don't make enough money. Sorry.
I would say if you were to do a survey, and this is with absolutely no no research.
Yeah.
If you were to ask people and you did a survey of the people who said they did not want to go to college, and you asked them like, do you want to get married? Do you want to have kids?
No.
I would probably say a majority of them would say they don't know or don't care.
Exactly.
Whereas
I
probably
agree.
in the college one, a lot of people would say that they do want those things.
Right.
Or at least they're leaning towards it.
Most people who go to college get married later.
Yeah.
We do know that, and
That
have
makes
children
sense.
later on, which also, guess what? People who go to college, their marriages last longer.
Sure.
Again, mainly probably because of the financial aspect of it all.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not passing judgment. Like, I'm okay if you don't want any of those things. But
yeah, that's true. That's a way to live. That's fine.
it's fine. But
I mean, from we're gonna need people in the workforce to pay for my Social Security. It's not fine. Please have children.
well,
But yes,
I know.
from like a
Yeah.
general standpoint, yes, it's fine.
yeah. So I don't want to come off as like this old Gen X lady, which I am.
Go to college.
Because I still listen. I've done the research. I'm not seeing it, but okay. One thing I do want to say, there was this one study that I looked at from freeop.org. Actually, Dave Ramsey quotes this study a lot.
Oh, geez.
I know. I don't love everything about him, but sometimes he makes a lot of sense.
Look, even a broken clock is right twice a day.
That's right.
This, that, and the third. This is
Yep.
what I'm pulling out my old
I love
church
the
ladies.
broken clock reference. According to freeop.org, they did a massive study on over 30,000 bachelor degrees programs at over 1,700 schools across the nation. And they looked at the ROI of the degrees.
Okay.
And so they were like, they define ROI as college degree. Did it increase your lifetime earnings? Okay. To the point where you have made a return on your investment of how much you paid for college very well. Right. Okay. It's not like you just got by. Like you made a return on your investment and you continue to keep going in spades. Yeah. Right. So 4 and 5. So what this study overall found was that college is still worth it, but strategically. You have to be strategic about what you decide to do. Mm-hmm. And there are lots of majors that will give you an ROI, but there's a lot of them that don't.
Yeah.
And so you have to go in understanding that, it really is about the major you pick. So 4 and 5 engineering programs have an ROI of above $500,000 over your life.
I could believe that. Yeah.
Other jobs and majors, engineering, computer science, economics, and nursing also had a very positive ROI. Now, 16% of the programs had a negative ROI. That means you do not make good on your investment. Those majors were art, music, philosophy, religion, and psychology.
I'm shocked.
Now, in the middle,
shocked,
are people like you and I.
Right.
Okay. Communications, media. Yeah.
Well, that can go
types of things.
There's look, I always saw it as this in college. There's like 3 paths, right? Which is what you're describing.
Yeah.
The ones that you just shouldn't do. Because like, I'm so sorry, but like, why would I pay someone sometimes if you go to private school, like $100,000 for a piece of paper to do a job that will not ever make me $100,000 a year?
No, it won't.
Right. That's insane.
But you have to have a degree for a lot of them.
That's crazy.
You can't go teach Victorian literature at college without a degree in Victorian literature.
And what would we do without the Victorian literature teachers? I like Victorian literature. I'm not trying to be an asshole. But meanwhile, and then I think also goes back to value. When you're in the middle is where I think you can, like a business degree. Right. It's an HR degree, media degree. Like, these could be just like I checked the box and I was getting high and going to frat parties every weekend. Could be. Or it can be I'm going to really think about my career.
I was strategic.
Right.
I was like, hey, I'm doing media, but these are the ones that might make me more money. I realized that at some point in my career, I may have to get a master's degree to kind of like keep this ball going. Right. As far as income earning.
And when you do that, and that's the thing, this becomes like a larger gameplay that I have found as I get older and I move, I keep working, that some people are good at and some people aren't. Right. Just like with college. Like some people are good at it and some people aren't in making decisions. Like when you move jobs,
Right.
That can affect a lot of your career.
Where you start.
What
That is a big one.
A question I hear a lot from people is like, should I take the job that's less money?
It depends.
Sometimes.
I think in the beginning,
it actually works out.
In the beginning, I feel like no. I feel like in the beginning, you should take the job with the most money, even if it sucks, because where you start is how you end.
But sometimes,
unless you make a lot of drastic changes,
right? I mean, sometimes it could be worth it from like maybe a networking standpoint.
For sure.
Maybe it's like you take the job at the startup not knowing, and then that ends up being Google, and now you're saying
exactly.
I don't know, but you do.
There's levels to it.
There's a lot of it's gameplay at this point. You're
totally
playing chess, trying to figure out what is going to move you up the board faster.
Yeah.
And so some people I have found are like really, really good at this. Some people are adequate, and some people are just really terrible. They just don't care. It seems like they just don't care.
Or it's that they feel like it should be. This is where people
should be what?
Fair. This is
the problem. You know what I think it is?
It should be this way, but guess what? It's not.
It's not.
You got a mass comm degree, and you feel like the newspaper or the magazine or whatever you're at should pay you enough to retire, and they're not going
That's not gonna happen.
Right. Yeah. So you got to move on.
You know what I did before I chose my degree? This is how I know I'm a weirdo.
What?
I went to the Bureau of Labor Statistics website.
Okay, good for you.
And I looked up jobs that I was interested in.
Yes.
And because I wanted to be a journalist.
Okay, yes, I know that about you.
I've told you this before. And I looked up how much that salary was.
Yeah,
I laughed. And then afterwards, I see like at the bottom, like I think, and I was so young, I think I had to Google like, is 30,000 like, I was like, what? Put this number in context for me. And then I was like, oh, that's bad. And then it also will give you related jobs.
Yeah.
Jobs that you can do with like the same degrees. Yeah. And then I just went down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out like what would be something that I would be interested in. And that would also make me more money.
Well, PR
while I'm doing
is
something
at the top.
that I like.
I mean, advertising is probably at the top of our...
Might not be anymore.
When I was coming in...
I think marketing probably is now.
Well, they were probably like the same.
Yeah.
Marketing, advertising, was the top. Underneath that was PR. Underneath that was in your more traditional media type roles. And so, the people who were like, I need to make some money, were not...
I'm not wasting my time being a journalist.
Right. But if you really love it... and you're willing to do it, that's what you do. And so I understand that thinking, right? Because that's what I did. But I also...
Well, it was different when... It wasn't as bad.
I knew I wasn't going to be able to retire.
Yeah, but it wasn't like... It was really bad.
I made $34,000 when I graduated college.
What year did you graduate college?
2002.
Okay. I was looking in 2014.
But I'll tell you, though... that was one of the highest paying jobs, which is why I was like, oh, this is great. My job was known as having golden handcuffs. And so there were jobs that was
inflation went up.
I know
the job did not.
I know it did. The job didn't.
Actually went down. It actually went down.
So, I mean, I understand the rationale of going after your passion, but I think you have to also realize that it's time to pivot at some point, because your passion is not going to help you amass wealth to some degree.
Some people don't care about that.
They don't. And that's my whole point here. Like, people don't...
Which is wild to me.
I mean, everybody's not the same.
It's true. And I'm glad for it, because it's less competition for me.
It is. And everybody shouldn't be the same. So here's the thing with the college stuff. The major is the most important factor. Don't get wrapped up in names of schools either. That's not that important. You know, you could go to a community college for 2 years and then transfer into a traditional university. Think logically about what you want your life to look like. And that's what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. If you have a passion and you're fine with only making $50,000 for the rest of your life, do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
But like, understand it is what it is.
Right.
And maybe...
don't complain about it later.
Don't complain about it, and maybe cushion the blow by going to community college for this thing instead of going to Notre Dame.
This is my... Not to cut you off, but this is where I get mad, actually. Because I did work in higher education on a state level very early in my career. I was very invested. I feel education is very important. But the problem is the way we go about it is wrong. It's just completely fucked. And it's all marketing from these schools to make you think. And what's sad is, like, if you don't know any better, you will go there because you think, oh, I got into Cornell, let me go there.
Right. For
pay $120,000 to get a
mass
degree.
comm degree.
Right. When I could have gone, maybe not mass comm, but like for something like teaching, where you could have just gone to your state college and gotten that for literally not less than a fourth of the price.
Yeah.
And you come out in the green. You know what I mean?
I agree.
You can work while you're there. You can like do all these things. There's actually more scholarships available.
There's more opportunity. Maybe you don't spend as much money on room and board. I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the point.
It's like everyone has, like, no one's creative about the way they want it. And that's my problem too, is I think everyone sees college as like, I gotta go to college, so then I pick a school and it's wherever I want that, like, I go there, and when I get there I feel like
I'm in college.
I picked one that felt like I was in college, but you know what? It was fucking in state. I was not going out of state.
I mean, I'm not mad at you.
I couldn't afford it.
That's the point.
And this is part of the problem too, is my I've told you this before, my counselor in high school told me, with your grades, you can go wherever you want.
Right.
Like in your test scores.
Yes.
Like, you should just apply to wherever.
Everywhere. Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I actually always really wanted to go to Notre Dame.
Oh.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
But it was too expensive. Like, I couldn't go there.
It's very expensive.
I had, and I...
You could.
Yeah, but I knew that I could go to college for free here.
Yes.
So I told her I can't do that. And she was like, no, you just get loans. And I was like, I personally don't.
That's
didn't want that option
route.
For me.
You didn't want that route.
Yeah.
You could have done it.
Yes.
But you didn't want it.
For me, it wasn't going to be a thing.
Right. But I think some people will make that decision.
They do. And as long as you're happy with the end result, fine. And I think what sucks and why I don't think you should rush into college is because you are going to make a decision. And I think what I've learned is, like, perhaps my amount of self-awareness at 17 is not me on the Bureau of Labor Statistics
more
website.
Fun the older you've gotten.
I have.
Yeah, I can tell.
Actually have gone.
Real
but you know what
serious
happens?
One.
You know what happens?
What?
Suddenly,
What?
Suddenly, you're not so worried about whether or not you're going to have a job, and you can eat, and then you can
lighten up a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Damn.
Yeah, imagine that. When I'm not worried about if I'm going to eat tonight, I can, like, have a good time. Like, groundbreaking. Someone call the New York Times.
Some people, yeah. But you know what? It's because you probably were facing other responsibilities, even maybe mentally, that, again, kids from
people don't have to face.
They don't have to face.
They don't have to face
and
that.
It's so...
And that's what I had to learn.
It's really blowing my mind.
I could not figure it out. I was like, what is wrong with these people? And then I was like, we're running a different operating system.
It's a different operating system.
We've been programmed differently because these kids, like, when your parents are two doctors...
Shoot, if your parents are just
or a lawyer or like
it doesn't even have
IT
to be that
or an
much.
HR or whatever. When your parents have two good jobs and you grow up that way,
yes,
and then you want to be an art history major,
you kind of have.
I don't think you have the wherewithal, the understanding to say, like, oh, I might, and this is why I get funner and they get less fun.
Yeah,
because they didn't realize, like, what that life would be like. And when you're moving up, it's easier than moving down.
I'm trying to tell you, they're moving down. And that is
and if
hard
you're cool
for me to
with
wrap my mind around. If you're cool with it,
fine.
But see,
that
these
makes
kids
more room
also
for me.
Don't really have the passion. I'm not sure it's entirely that strong. Because when the passion is really that strong, you're willing to be broke. And you just...
That is very true.
You're being paid in another emotion. I can't explain it.
Yeah.
But
I've seen it.
Yeah, you're getting paid because you're doing exactly what it is you wanted to do. But I'm not sure that that's really where they're coming from. So, yeah, you as a millennial feel that way. Me as a Gen Xer with a kid who's headed in the direction and these conversations are happening. Does
he want to go to college?
Hard. He says he does.
Okay.
He says he does. I think he's very interested in the college experience. He definitely likes money.
I literally did not care about, like, when I knew I was going to college, I was like, oh, I'm going to find, like, the priority list was different for me.
Right.
I was like, cheapest.
Yeah. You didn't have A Different World either.
And then I was like, huh?
That was a show I grew up on, A Different World, when Denise Huxtable went to college.
Oh, no, I remember this.
That literally was what me and my friends
but then I was like,
wanted.
but it's like, if I had to choose between that and money, I would choose money. But if I could have both, and I here's the thing though too, is I could and I did.
You did.
I had a very good college experience.
You had a traditional college experience.
It was, and it felt, where I went to school felt different, even like geographically.
Yes.
From here. It's very different. Good. Climate and everything.
That was good.
It was literally the perfect, and that's why I say like, it's all bullshit. You don't have to go to like NYU. Like, okay, maybe that's going to do it for you. But maybe you can find those experiences in other ways.
Yes.
Don't just buy into what they're feeding you.
I agree.
You know,
and that's
unglitch from the matrix.
And that's why the better argument is college worth it? It's really not. That's too oversimplifying it. It's not about whether it's worth it. It's about how to do it right. How to do it the right way.
But Nicole, I have had this conversation. I can't even tell you. I've had this conversation with you. And people will say, like, they even parents are like, I want my kid to be able to go anywhere. I want my kid to be able, you know what though? Live in reality, babe.
Live in reality.
I'm sorry. Dartmouth sounds real cool now.
Sounds great.
Until he's sending you the check for the dorms and you're like, shit, I did offer to pay for that when he could have been going to UF.
Right.
Or FSU or FAU or Miami even for a lot cheaper. And coming home and all this stuff. So like, yeah, because then that's another thing too.
What?
It's all the other costs. It's not just we talk about tuition.
It's getting back and forth.
And it's going there. It's coming
dorms,
back.
It's food,
shipping.
It's shipping.
His
it's everything.
Stuff. It's the food. And then you can't see him. And then blah blah blah. It's like literally everything. And yeah, I agree. No thanks. Like
I think just to put a bow on it, it's not whether college is worth it or not, because it actually is, folks. I've given you the numbers, but it doesn't have to be unrealistically attained. You can do it in a way that makes sense. And yes, there are other alternatives now. There are jobs where you don't need a degree, but guess what? You got to do something. You have to have a plan to do something. Just because you don't go to college doesn't mean you're not going to have to continue to learn in some capacity.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and it also doesn't mean like just because you realize that I have to go to college and like go into HR because I need to live and I want to be fun like Elizabeth now. Not like her at 17. Then it doesn't mean your passions have to stop either.
They don't. You can do other things.
You can actually pursue other things.
Outside of your career.
Right. And so, you know, open your mind. Like, stop. Just stop and think for 5 minutes about whether or not that degree in philosophy is really going to help you.
Right.
Or if you're just, what I love is when someone's like, oh yeah, I got this degree, whatever it is, and I didn't realize I had to get like the only jobs I could do were teach or this like one very specific thing that only 7 people in Sweden do. Right. So I had to go and get another degree. And then after that degree, I had to get another. And I'm like,
lack of preparation.
Yeah, like you didn't Google it.
Lack of preparation.
At no point you were like, what am I going to do with this?
So I think it's important to figure out what do you want to do and how do you want your life to look, and then work backwards from there. Yeah.
What do you want your life to look like every day?
Right. And then, you know, right. What do you want your life to look like outside of a career?
Right.
Like, do you want to be able to work from home? Do you want to go in? Like,
do you want to get married? Do you want to have kids? Right. Do you want to own a home? Do you want to live in a city and rent?
Right.
What do you want to do?
Live in the suburbs? Do you want to live in the country? How do you want your life to look? Then let's work backwards from, okay, what is it going to take to get there? And within that realm, what are the things that I'm interested in or that I can tolerate? And then that's literally where you start. And then you work backwards to like, where should I go to do this?
Well, and then you work backwards to what's going to give me the highest return on my investment.
The highest
so
ROI.
If my concern is both experience and money, I'm willing to pay a little bit more and have a better experience.
And have more salary.
But I don't want the whole thing. So I'm, then you find a place that gives you that.
Or if you're like, you know what, I'm okay with doing the thing that I really absolutely love. But I don't, and I'm not going to make that much money. So let me not go to Notre Dame. Let me go here and get this degree doing that.
And you know what's going to happen?
What?
Is that eventually those jobs will have to raise their wages.
They will.
Because here's the problem. Okay, like let's pick on journalism since we both were aspiring for that. Like, you know why they can get a kid out of college and pay them like $27,000 to be in a shit market on TV.
Because they have a passion for it.
Because everyone wants to do that.
And it's very competitive.
It's super competitive.
Right.
So they can pay you nothing.
And
they know you'll stay.
Tell you that. It's like, everybody wants to be here.
You know that.
And so you get to be paid less.
Right.
That's not going to change, though.
Maybe not in that.
Yeah.
But in the other areas, I think you might be able to, like, eventually you're gonna have to see that shift, but you gotta stop just being that thing. Like, just stop giving them what they want.
Have a shortage.
Yeah,
which is what happened with the tech. They had a labor shortage, and so they had to lower their requirements.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
So hopefully that doesn't happen with like doctors and stuff, because I still want them to have all the degrees. But doctors is not one of even the top jobs.
I believe
you should just be a nurse practitioner or a physician's assistant.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think I knew that, actually.
And lawyer wasn't in the top 5 either.
I knew that because at one point,
that's the
years ago, I made more money than my friend who was a lawyer, and I was like, bro, I don't make that much money.
Happens a lot. Again, one of those fields you have to be highly strategic in.
You got to think about. You can't just say, I'm a lawyer now, I want to follow my passion.
Nah,
you gotta be okay doing
because
maybe the worst lawyering.
Passion law doesn't pay that good.
No.
So anyway, that's my time. I'm really analyzing this topic. I appreciate the chat about it. I'm still not convinced that college isn't worth it, but I am thinking about making sure that we find the right fit.
Yeah, you've moved me more towards the middle, but I think I was always in the camp of like, you have to be, if you are gonna just throw all caution to the wind and say a 4-year degree for like $200,000 is worth that much. It's not. It's just not. I'm sorry.
Unless
it never
you're going
is.
To be a engineer.
But even
or a nurse practitioner.
No, I'm sorry. Like,
or a physician assistant. Why can't they go to Harvard? That's fine.
They can.
They're gonna get their money back eventually. Okay. Let them go away. Let them do it.
They can go where. I'm just saying, like. Is having Harvard on that degree
for them? Yeah, okay. I actually think some of that could be applicable
in law. Yeah,
in law,
Harvard
and
law.
maybe even in medical. Yeah. Maybe even in some other areas
Johns
that
Hopkins.
We're not. Right.
Yeah, like, sure.
Yeah,
okay.
so like, but they're gonna make their money back.
Yeah, they'll be fine. They'll be fine.
It's the us's and lower. Maybe even with us, like to me, maybe going to NYU would have been better than going to VCU, depending on what area of media I wanted to be in. The connections are there, but I mean that's not a guarantee. So like,
well, I was gonna say too, yeah, because then the thing is, the connections are there. You still have to go get them.
You still have to be good enough too.
And that's what people think. Like I said, like people don't get it. Like you don't just, I went to the school because the connections are there, and then I never left my dorm.
Right.
Like that's not how that works.
That's not how it works.
You got to go out there. And you've got to really like hustle to get those connections
out there,
and that sucks.
It's terrifying.
And I hate that.
It's real hard. It's real hard.
That's not going to suit me.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. So I'm not going to do it. Like someone was once like, "Oh, you should get your MBA," and I was like, why? And they said, "Oh, you end up with a lot of connections, but only go to a program with people that you want to meet." And I was like, "See, I don't want to meet anyone.
You don't even want to talk to anybody.
I don't want to meet anybody, so I'm good. Actually, I'm not gonna. That sounds awful. I don't want to spend my money on that. They're expensive.
I already have people now that I don't want to talk to.
I got a job now. It's fine.
Yeah,
I'll figure it out."
Anyway, guys, I don't know what you got from that, but I just had to complain a little bit about all this talk about college not being important when it actually is.
You moved me a little, like I said. I could see that maybe it is. It's hard for me to say that it's not when I have 2 degrees. So.
Exactly. And we don't have the data. Let's follow up in 30 years.
Yeah, good point.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, if we're still here, God help us.
Good Lord. This thing better be paying more than what my college degree job paid me. I know that.
Well, we hope you like what you heard. Make sure you rate, review, and subscribe. And if you have any thoughts on college or whether or not it's worth it, please let us know. We want to hear. Maybe you went to college and you think it's worthless. Maybe you didn't go to college and you wish you had. Or you're happy you didn't. We want to know.
I would love to know.
Yeah.
All right. See ya.
See ya.